Welcome to Guild Wars 2 Goldlocked, a series inspired by the traditional RuneScape series that has recently blown up in the World of Warcraft community, and I wanted to bring it to Guild Wars 2, assuming no one else has yet. The idea is simple. We have one character and start in one zone. We can only travel through that one zone, completing tasks, killing monsters, beating events, and doing whatever we can to make gold. Now, when we look at maps in Guild Wars 2, there are a lot of really good gold farms that you can find in different maps. Drizzlewood Coast and Dragonfall being two examples of maps that you can farm in for a couple hours and easily make 50 gold, but we aren't in those maps. I'm starting my adventure as a Norn, playing through the Wayfarer Foothills and scraping every corner of this map to try to make some money. If you have played Guild Wars 2, you probably know that a lot of maps like Wayfarer Foothills aren't going to be super good for making gold. Like, at all. So we are going to have to get creative, dive deep into the intricate mechanics of Guild Wars 2, and truly push this game and this map to its limits. Let's go over the ground rules of this entire series. We have one singular character. I am playing on an old account that I have, which is pretty much fresh. I'm starting with 5 karma, 1 transmutation charge, and 197 achievement points. So basically a completely fresh account with a brand new character starting from nothing. We can't use any other characters, we can't call in any friends or guildies to help me out with something, we are on our own. Since Guild Wars 2 is a collaborative MMO, we are allowed to use natural interactions in the world. If I am doing an event and somebody joins in to help, that's okay. I'm not going to immediately audit for my game to make sure nobody helped me. Additionally, depending on the map and what exists in each map, if a group is doing something like a road boss, I'm allowed to join in and explore those gold making opportunities. What character am I playing on? I wanted to play a Norn warrior. Why did I pick Norn? Well, a few different reasons. I haven't played too many Norn in my time playing Guild Wars 2, so I thought it would be nice to do so. Additionally, I wanted to listen to some of Matthew Mercer's work as I played. And finally, and maybe the biggest thing, is something I'm not going to talk about just yet, so we'll loop back around to it. Why did I pick warrior? Well, I didn't really care too much about what profession we pick. When we consider the restraints of the series, it would be good to pick a profession I am pretty comfortable with and would be great at making gold, so a guardian or necromancer would be the best choices for me personally, but realistically, they are all about the same to me. The biggest reason, which may be kind of silly, is that I was looking at all the characters I'm going to be playing in my Guild Wars 2 Let's Play series, and warrior is most likely going to be one of the least played, so I wanted to give it some more time in the spotlight with this series. Now, the next rule. We can only be in our currently unlocked map. Since we are a Norn character, we are starting in the Wayfarer Foothills, and we can only get gold in this map. We can complete any story, map completion events, kill any monster, do anything, as long as it is in Wayfarer Foothills. There's also the Norn capital city of Holbrak that is connected to the Wayfarer Foothills, which I'll allow travel in. I'll do a very quick map completion, and I don't think that you can get much gold from that. And then I'll use any services inside of Holbrak. However, I can't do anything that is seasonal that will act as a gold farm. If Dragon Bash happen to be going on while I make this video, I can't do that. If I get to Lion's Arch while Shadow of the Mad King is going on, I can't do that. And so on and so forth. But any trading posts or crafting people or whatever in Holbrak is free to use, and if I get to Diasa Plateau for example, I'll also unlock the Black Citadel as I do that. I can sell anything on the trading post to make gold, but I can't buy anything to try to flip it, use in a crafting recipe, or empower my character. I can also only get upgrades via level ups, vendors in the map, or any other source found within the map. Next, I must make 50 gold to obtain the ability to unlock a new map. Why 50 gold? Well, it's a substantial amount of gold that isn't too much, so we won't be spending years of my life in Wayfarer Foothills trying to get to 10,000 gold or something. 50 gold will allow us to explore all the different opportunities to farm gold in a map, then probably spend a dozen or so hours farming gold from what we learn. Now for the big thing, unlocking new zones. Once we get 50 gold, we unlock the ability to go to a new map and start this adventure over again. But in that new map, we can only unlock maps that are directly connected to the map we are in, or have unlocked. So in the case of Wayfarer Foothills, we have Diasa Plateau to the east, Frostgorge Sound to the north, and Snowden Drifts to the west. There's also the case of Dredge Hunt Cliffs that is connected to Holbrak, but since the focus of this mission is on Wayfarer Foothills, I am not going to allow that. At the end of this video, as I get 50 gold, I will go ahead and spin a randomizer wheel that will select one of these 3 maps, so we basically have a 33% chance of going to say Snowden Drifts in the next video. I will consider removing Frostgorge Sound from the first spin if I am not close to level 70 once I get 50 gold. Any map in Corteria is available. There are a lot of maps in Guild Wars 2, but I wanted to avoid post-release maps for 2 reasons. Outside of the Heart of Thorns expansion and Living World Season 2, there really isn't an organic path to any expansion map that would make a lot of sense for the idea behind this series, and additionally, pretty much every post-release map is easy to get gold in. If we unlocked the Silver Wastes, I would just run Reba for a few hours and have 50 gold. There's nothing too exciting and challenging about that. I really want to push the limits of gold making in Guild Wars 2, so we are sticking to maps that weren't necessarily designed with gold making in mind. Additionally, there's also the scope of the series. I can complete every single map in Guild Wars 2, and should I eventually complete all of Central Tyria, I could begin moving on to expansion maps. But at the start of the series, my goal is 10 maps. We'll see how popular of an idea the series is, and if people like it a lot. If you all do, I'll make more. But by doing 10 maps, we can explore a bunch of different areas, and then I will have made 500 gold, which is the maximum amount of gold you can send in the mail to another account per week. So once I get 500 gold, I can just ship it to my main account. And then the last big rule is no Wizard's Vault. I feel like this just takes away the entire purpose of what we were going for here, and I would easily complete every map just by doing as many dailies and weeklies as I could. So that was a lot of background for the entire series. Now let's really start diving deep into Wayfarer Foothills. First, we have the map completion of the Wayfarer Foothills, map completion of Hope Rack, completing as much story as we currently can, doing random events and stuff along the way, and selling every item I got, which brings us to our first total of 3 gold, 70 silver, and 4 copper. Definitely not bad, but only a small fraction of our goal. Now it's time to start considering the mechanics of Guild Wars 2. We are currently level 24 after all of our adventures, and as a level 24 exploring through the Wayfarer Foothills, we are going to be getting drops you would expect in the Wayfarer Foothills, but also drops you would expect at level 24. The former is always going to stay the same, but the latter is going to change. As we level up more, we're going to get access to more higher level drops, especially from completing certain activities within the map. Throughout the years of Guild Wars 2, there has been a topic that has been debated for a long time now, where opening certain loot bags that you get from champions on lower level characters, generally somewhere in the level 50s range, will be more rewarding than opening them on a level 80 character. But in modern day Guild Wars 2, that isn't really a practice we see anymore, and most people will just open those bags on their level 80 character. On top of all that, grinding for drops on a level 80 character is going to be better than on a level 50 something character because of the whole getting better drops thing. And in the context of this series, we can't really stop at a certain level and grind on that character because we gain experience for almost every single thing we do in this game, especially anything that nets us gold. But that's also another fun idea behind the series, that anything we do is going to net us some gold. But of course, doing certain things is going to give us more gold per hour spent playing, and in these random maps, we're going to have to find the fastest ways to progress through this challenge. As I level up towards level 80, I get a ton of items that I can put on the trading post. Now you can often sell items instantly to any buy orders, or put up a sell listing that buyers can buy from. The first is an instantaneous amount of guaranteed money, which is fantastic, but it's less potential money than the second because you could potentially sell that item for more money by listing it for more money. But of course, you also have to take into account the idea that some items aren't going to be bought. When you list an item on the trading post, there's a cut taken from you. So if you list items over and over, you could potentially be losing money, though for many items they will eventually sell. And for most crafting items in the game, there isn't really a big difference between the buy order and sell order prices, so it doesn't really matter too much in the first place. For me, I do a combination of both, depending on each individual item, what their prices are, and what my personal mood is at a given moment. I'll just instantly sell or put up a sell order. Either way, I'm just making some gold and progressing towards 50 total gold. As I level up, I can't do any more map completion since we are locked to the Wayfarer Foothills, and I also can't progress my story since I need to go to Diasa Plateau. So for my entire personal story, it relies on unlocking Diasa Plateau in order to continue it, so hypothetically, I may never do the personal story ever again in this series. But I can just do some events, kill random mobs, especially mobs who haven't been killed in a while, and really just do anything to get experience and get gold along the way. But I think it's time to figure out some math and routing through this map to optimize the amount of gold we get along the way. The different harvesting nodes in this map are going to stay the same no matter what level they are, and the money you get from them, ignoring any market fluctuation, is going to stay the same as a result. So as we level, I think this is a good opportunity to dive into the money-making opportunities of harvesting nodes in Wayfarer Foothills. Since this is a starter map, it's going to be quite a bit lower than some other maps, and this idea is going to be more relevant in the future. When we look at all the harvest nodes in the map, there are a lot. We got copper and greenwood logs from the aspen saplings, which will net us some decent, consistent gold, though a small amount. If we get lucky with the aspen saplings, we can get some cinnamon sticks, which are worth considerably more than the greenwood logs, but are much less common. But then we got blueberry bushes, button mushrooms, carrots, onions, and herb seedlings. Blueberries and the other items you get are pretty cheap, but can be sold for a decent amount. Button mushrooms actually sell for quite a bit more, with the mushrooms selling for 3 silver each, and each node can potentially give 2, so we could get 6 silver per node. Carrots are pretty similar in price to the blueberries. Onions are pretty similar to the mushrooms, but sell for just a little bit less. And herb seedlings actually give a few different drops, but each of them are the winner here, ranging from around 4 to 5 silver, with the chance of getting between 1 and 5 drops per node. Now looking at every single one of these crops, they can pretty much be found throughout the entirety of the Wayfarer Foothills, with the button mushrooms being a little less common and more often found inside of caves away from everything else. Looking at the copper and greenwood, they can also be found all throughout the map, so basically we can do laps around the entirety of Wayfarer Foothills, and pretty much everywhere we go will give us some drops. As we do, we can pick everything up, but we want to make sure that we get the more expensive crops as we run around if we were skipping over other stuff. Now, in Guild Wars 2, nodes are generated in select spots depending on the specific instance you are in. So for the most part, we can't memorize very specific spots for each one, but we can learn areas, and over time we will begin to recognize spawn locations. There are some nodes that do have set spawn locations, generally rich ore nodes and gardens of plants, but those can only be harvested roughly once a day per character, compared to other nodes which can be harvested once every few hours per character. So for us, we should make sure to get the special nodes once a day, and when it comes to harvesting other nodes, we can only do them once per hour. So I took some time and went all across the Wayfarer Foothills with the stopwatch going, and I basically harvested every node that I could find. I mined every ore, chopped down every tree, and gathered every plant. To go across the map and find pretty much everything I could while killing a couple of mobs here and there, it took me a grand total of 28 minutes. And upon doing this, the nodes are gone for quite a while, so this is roughly a half hour of farming that you do every few hours or maybe once a day. And I got a decent amount of mats from this too, roughly 100 copper ore and roughly 100 greenwood logs, plus just a bunch of other random materials. To look at some of the winners, the plants from the herb seedlings are definitely good money. I also got a couple of tiger's eye pebbles worth 4 silver each, but I only got 2 of them, and the big winner is cinnamon sticks. I got 12 of these worth about a total of 67 silver. Wayfarer Foothills in particular has a lot of trees and trees in tiny groves with multiple nodes right next to each other. And after selling all of the materials I gathered, I got 2 gold, 5 silver, and 64 copper, which you can estimate out to be in roughly 4 gold and 30 silver per hour. So definitely pretty good, but this is an activity I can only do once every few hours, so if I was going to spend a long time grinding in Wayfarer Foothills nonstop, this wouldn't be the best consistent activity, but would be a nice break. We do also have to consider the cost of harvesting tools, but they are pretty cheap. The biggest winners from this farm are the cinnamon sticks and the plants from the herb seedlings, so I think there are 2 schools of thought here. Either do this farm once a day, or every few hours to break up your other farms and get a couple of gold from a half hour of effort. Or just harvest some stuff as you adventure through the zone, prioritizing the saplings and herb seedlings. Either way, it was fun to dive into. But with node farming out of the way, it's time to dive deep into the next big thing that Wayfarer Foothills has to offer, and that is mob loot tables. With Wayfarer Foothills being a starter zone, it suffers a lot in the gold per item department as materials from harvesting nodes does, for everything is pretty cheap on the trading post. I've spent some time so far just killing different mobs around the map while leveling up, and I also have a pretty decent understanding of the loot tables coming into this challenge, and given the fact I've played so much Guild Wars 2. Killing any mob is pretty much going to give us some gold, so if you just kill a bunch of mobs, eventually one day we will get enough mats that will sell for 50 gold. But there are 2 specific drops in this zone that are significantly better than everything else combined, ignoring global drops like the small chance we have to get a precursor item once we reach level 80. Veteran players may already know what one of these drops are, and it's a pretty big one, but let's look at the other one first, which does sell for a fair bit less. Anyone who has explored through the Wayfarer Foothills should be very familiar with the Sons of Svanir, as they are located in many different parts of the map. While they drop a variety of items, they drop one particular item that is pretty important for our journey here: tiny icy bags. These are items you can double click to open, and they drop a variety of different crafting ingredients, but you can also sell them on the trading post for about 5 silver each. So I went all around Wayfarer Foothills and killed a bunch of Sons of Svanir for about half an hour to see how many tiny icy bags I could get. Now, killing Sons of Svanir is interesting because they are hostile mobs and they are a part of a bunch of tasks and events, so there was just a lot of people all around the map fighting them too, meaning I had some slight competition in the sense that many of the Sons of Svanir were dying before I could hit them, but I was still able to get a decent amount of loot. There's also the idea of diminishing returns, where killing a certain enemy in a certain location will give less and less loot over time in order to combat botting. But given the fact that botting is still popular and that I was moving around a lot, I wasn't impacted by diminishing returns at all, but that is an idea we may have to return to in the future if we get impacted by it. After half an hour, I got a grand total of 19 tiny icy bags, which altogether sell for about 1 gold. Which isn't too bad, especially when you take into consideration all the other drops and a few node harvests I got along the way, which brings my grand total from this half an hour of farming to 1 gold and 30 silver, or 2 gold and 60 silver per hour. So considerably less than the node farming we did earlier, but something that we can do for a longer period of time. So killing Sons of Svanir is a decent method to make gold, but I don't think this is going to be the best option for us, though I'll kill some more here and there as we move forward. But now let's look at the big item that drops in Wayfarer Foothills, which is worth a considerable amount of money: slab of poultry meat. This is a crafting ingredient that is relatively common, but definitely a harder drop to get than other crafting ingredients, and it sells for a grand total of 33 silver each. Yes, for each piece of poultry meat you can get over 30 silver. Now this is an item that has always been pretty expensive, but has shot up in price and has stayed up in price because of the Orax manifested back item from the Jethro Wilds expansion. And in the Wayfarer Foothills, you can get slabs of poultry meat from different white moa in the map, where there are quite a bit of white moa around the Tygan Groves and Frusenfell Creek areas. There are also griffins all around the map that you may think would drop this item, but they do not. It's just the moa. The moa also don't attack players on site and aren't part of any events, so there are significantly less players randomly killing them. Though when the road boss in this map is up, which spawns by one of the groups of moa, those moa tend to just die from the players. So just like with the Sons of Svanir that spent some time killing a ton of moa, and ultimately after 30 minutes I got 15 slabs of poultry meat that come in at a bit under 5 gold. I also got 20 eggs, which come in at about 20 silver, and then a bunch of other items which altogether sell for a total of 4 gold, 92 silver, and 52 copper, which is equivalent to about 9 gold and 85 silver per hour. So compared to our harvesting farm and the Sons of Svanir farm, this one is above and beyond the best farm we have found in Wayfarer Foothills. However, there was something a little interesting with this farm where I began to experience something that feels like diminishing returns, which is not something I really saw with the Sons of Svanir. In the first 10-minute section of my farm, I got a whopping 8 slabs of poultry meat, but in the next 15 minutes, I only got 2 slabs of poultry meat, significantly less even though I spent more time. But then in the last 5 minutes of the farm, I started getting more slabs of poultry meat again and got a total of 5 more. So the start and end was great, but there was a big chunk in the middle where I just really didn't get that many drops of the poultry meat, though I did keep getting a steady flow of other drops, including the eggs, which I found interesting. So I thought I'd do this farm again several hours and a couple of map changes later. I spent another half hour doing the same exact thing, and I kept track of my drops. And well, it was a little weird. I got 21 eggs, one more than before, which basically sells for the same amount, but this time I got 13 slabs of poultry meat instead of 15, which is again basically the same amount, but does sell for a fair bit less given the fact that poultry meat sells for so much. But in the first 13 minutes of the farm, I only got 2 slabs of poultry meat, and the remaining 11 came in the last 17 minutes, which obviously that is like the opposite of diminishing returns. So it mostly seems like the slab of poultry meat's drop rate is incredibly variable, and that most likely comes from its lower than usual drop rate. In conclusion, killing a bunch of moa for slabs of poultry meat is a fantastic way to get money, and from everything else that I've been able to figure out with making gold in the Wayfarer Foothills, is our best and most reliable way. But combining it with some other activities like hitting high value harvesting nodes, killing a few Sons of Svanir, and doing the road boss every day is going to give some nice alternatives to break things up and also still give us quite a bit of gold. Now there are some other things and game mechanics that we could look at, but we can also save our time with those for future videos and maps, and I'll go more in depth to some different concepts in the upcoming videos. For this one, I wanted to try out one more farm that I know is going to be less gold, but is still good to try for the purpose of comparisons, and that is the slab of poacher meat's counterpart and the slab of red meat. These sell for just over 2 silver each, so significantly less, but do have a much higher drop rate. In the Wayfarer Foothills, we can expect these drops from alpine stalkers, ice drakes, rams, deer, dahliacs, and probably a couple of other mobs I'm forgetting. In this map, there are a ton of these mobs, but there are a ton of dahliacs in particular. So let's spend 30 minutes killing mostly dahliacs, but also some of the other mobs, and just trying to get as many slabs of red meat as possible. And altogether, I got a total of 41 slabs of red meat. Selling that gives me about 80 silver for a total amount of gold earned from this farm being 1 gold, 31 silver, and 10 copper, or roughly 2 gold and 62 silver per hour. Basically exactly the same as farming Sons of Svanir, but still a fair bit less than farming Moas. So with having looked at a ton of opportunities in the Wayfarer Foothills, it's time to spend a lot of time just farming with what we have learned throughout this video, aka kill a ton of Moas for a few hours while doing some other things here and there. As I do that, I just wanted to mention how cool it is to stay inside of the Wayfarer Foothills and really soak in this map without leaving it to go do some other stuff. It has also been really fun trying to push the gold making opportunities in this map to its limits and seeing just what this random little map can offer. It is also interesting farming gold at such a low level, which generally isn't recommended since you can just level to 80, then go do actual gold farms. But I guess a good tip for new players is that if you need a little extra gold as you level up, go kill a bunch of Moas and sell some slabs of poaching meat for upwards of 10 gold per hour. As I've explored the map more in depth for this video, I wanted to highlight one random little area that we can't really get that much gold from, but is cool nonetheless. In the northwestern corner of the map, you can find this little gorge. Guarding the entrance are just some minotaurs that can also be found around this area of the map, plus a few other areas, but inside are some ice imps. They don't really drop anything too important to note, but of course killing some stuff is going to give us a tiny amount of money. But I just like how this is a random little corner with some random ice imps that are just existing here in this map. If you look at the map, you can also see what appears to be a second alcove just west of here, past the entrance to Snowden Drifts, but it's actually just snow on the side of the mountain. But as I farm the last bit of gold I need, let's look towards the next episode. As we are starting in the Wayfarer Foothills, and in the context of all the rules I talked about at the start of this video, once we get to 50 gold, we can unlock access to Diasa Plateau, Snowden Drifts, or Frostgorge Sound. Since we aren't going to be anywhere near level 70 by the end of this video, Frostgorge Sound won't be available for the next video, but may be available in the third episode should we reach level 70 or so by that time. So we have a 50% chance to either be going to Snowden Drifts, or a 50% chance to go to Diasa Plateau. If we unlock Diasa Plateau, we will also unlock the Black Citadel as a hub to hang out in. For me, both of these maps are about the same, but from my experience and my expectations for making gold, I think Snowden Drifts is going to be the better map to play through. Additionally, Snowden Drifts is going to be opening up more opportunities for some great maps that I know we will be able to get a lot of gold out of. Diasa Plateau will be taking us in the opposite direction, but I think a fun thing we could do is connect the Fields of Ruin to Queensdale and Divinity's Reach, as the two maps are deeply connected to each other and have the Asura Gate from one to the other. There's also technically the Asura Gate and Holbracht Alliance Arch, which connects to all the other starter zones, and then also the waypoints in each starting zone that we have unlocked. But like with the Dreshan Cliffs, and for the purposes of this series, we are just ignoring those. But if you get to the Fields of Ruin or to Queensdale, the other will open up for us to get to. But after killing many Moas and just doing so much stuff all around Wayfarer Foothills, we can go to the trading post and collect the gold I have waiting for me, which is going to bring me over the 50 gold threshold. 50 whole gold collected entirely in the Wayfarer Foothills. I also want to point out the fact that I am only level 35 and I have farmed 50 gold, which I think is pretty cool. But it also kind of shows how slow leveling from just killing mobs, harvesting different gathering nodes, and doing the occasional event is. To look at time played, it took me about 12 hours to get 50 gold, including some time spent AFK, which is about equivalent to 4.16 gold per hour from farming in Wayfarer Foothills. I also died 4 times, most of which I think were actually to fall damage, funnily enough. But now it's time. With 50 gold earned, we can go ahead and spin a wheel and see which map we are going to get next. Is it going to be Diasa Plateau or Snowden Drifts? And Diasa Plateau it is. I was really hoping for Snowden Drifts personally, but I think Diasa Plateau has a bunch of opportunities to make some gold in some very interesting ways that we can dive deep into. Plus, I get to continue my personal story. And all that is going to be in the next episode. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, as I had a ton of fun diving deep into the Wayfarer Foothills and coming up with unique ways to earn gold in a map that isn't really designed to make gold in. Are we going to be farming a bunch of moas in the Diasa Plateau, or is there something more interesting ahead of us? Stick around to find out. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.